Hello, my name is Lou Setnicka, and I am a executive career and leadership coach at From Within Coaching. And I'm joined here by my dear friend, Jennifer Reitz, who is one of our coaches from the Trusted Partner Program, who also focuses on executive coaching. And we are here today to talk briefly about why we do executive coaching, what's the value in it, why we think it's a useful tool for executives in organizations. I get that right, Jennifer? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Looking forward to being in conversation with you.
Great. So this is going to be pretty informal. We're just going to chat about it and have it be more of a conversation. So I guess I'll just start things by asking you, Jennifer, how you got into executive coaching and where you see the value in it.
Thanks, Lou. Well, how I got into it was just after leaving Patagonia. So I think you were still working at Patagonia. And as I was leaving, I was really lucky to run into a woman that was a consultant for us that had spent quite a bit of time at the Hudson Institute. And I was in a pretty big transition. I was having my second child. And it was a time where I needed to be closer to home. And but there was so much that I wanted to I was in a pay it forward mode in a way. I learned so much at Patagonia, and I was really interested in training and development. And so I stepped into the Hudson Institute program. So I'm a certified Hudson Institute coach, like you are. That was really my stepping off point. Initially was looking at how do we work with organizations to become employers of choice. I worked with another colleague of ours around that. And one thing led to the next and started to step into what we call executive coaching, leadership coaching.
Yeah. I mean, as probably our viewers want to know, we do have a shared history of being part of the HR function at Patagonia. And even though our backgrounds are in HR, we've sort of broadened our scope, I guess, to include coaching. And I think probably we were doing a lot of informal coaching in our roles at Patagonia and HR anyway. And a lot of it was to the executive team there because, in many cases, they needed a sounding board. They needed someone that they could come to who they trusted and could give objective advice and feedback. And that was where we were at value. I too have been using Hudson and other experiences as jumping off points to more solidify my perspective on executive coaching and where I see it being so important. And I keep landing on the work of Brene Brown, who is so much about vulnerability and about transparency. And I just feel like if we can, as executive coaches, help our clients be more vulnerable and talk more openly about the things they struggle with, perhaps with us, perhaps with their leadership team, we might have very different organizations. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's really spot on. That there's when we are more vulnerable, there's a greater sense, I think, from our audience or those that we're in relationship with of a sense of connection.
Yeah.
Right. So we're building a deeper sense of connection and care, and also potentially belonging, which are such critical components for any of us. When we're more relaxed and we feel seen and heard, we're able to take more risk. We're able to expand out and try new things. And so I think that vulnerability is it's an interesting word, right? It gets a little bit of a bad rap for some people. Oh, does that mean I'm going to be sharing everything? But I think that I love the pairing I think Brene does with that around it's really such a courageous act. There's enormous courage.
Yeah. And what we've found in our work together, especially with executives, is there's some fear around being vulnerable or some fear around opening yourself up to potential criticism or, disputing of your ideas. However, my experience has shown that fear can be extremely paralyzing. So as a leader of an organization, if you're riddled with fear, it's difficult to move forward, or it's difficult to lead an organization forward because you're actually kind of paralyzed. So sometimes tearing down the walls, I think Brene talks about stepping into the arena and dropping your armor and being more vulnerable. It changes how people view you as an executive, as a leader.
Yeah.
You can, to your point, you can relate more to that person. Oh, they're scared of the same things that I am. Wow, what a concept. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you, I'm also a master somatic coach. I trained at Strozzi, and a lot of what you're talking about, I think I find leaders say, well, that's all really a nice idea. But like, how do I do that? And not like operationally in terms of what's the technique, but no, really, I'm really afraid. How do I start to drop the walls a bit?
Right.
And
don't you think as coaches, we can really be there to help them through that? We in one of our past trainings, we've talked about leading from behind, sort of propping people up and supporting them, but they're the forward facing people. That's sometimes what I think of in my role as an executive coach. I'm here for you. I'm leading. I'm helping you. I'm giving you the support on your back.
Yeah. Or I'm walking with you. I'm right next to you.
Yeah.
Or I'm sitting in the passenger seat. You're driving the car.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important things, and where I see people get a lot of leverage, is if they can get really connected to what they care about. So, vulnerable with themselves. Wow, what's meaningful to me in my life right now? What do I deeply, deeply care about? Why am I in this role?
Exactly.
Or what is it about that other role that I'm looking at why would that be important to me? And what might be possible there? Then we can get them organizing around that and practicing in the background of what they deeply, deeply care about. Now we've got something to work with.
Yeah.
I think in executive coaching, there's usually there's the two planes in a way. We've got a horizontal plane of, does this person need to develop more competency in skill building or something, in a certain way. And I think we work in both distinctions in the vertical development too. Wow, who am I being in the work that I'm engaging with? And there's it's so fun to watch somebody, a leader, in those really cruxy places where maybe I've been more of a tactical leader, or maybe I've been more of an individual contributor. And maybe I've never led people before, or have led a really small division. And now I'm moving into a role where what I've been up to no longer will serve in this particular role. Meaning, if I try to do that, I will drown.
Gosh, doesn't that take a lot of courage to have the honesty with yourself, to be able to say, I've outgrown this role. I'm no longer happy. This isn't for me anymore. I know it's a great company, but I'm restless. I want to move on. And as coaches, that's where we can really help our clients explore and give them the confidence and the courage to take that step.
Yeah. Well, and that step, and not only that step, the next one, right? Like that place of, how do I sit with the discomfort from what I knew how to do really, really well. And I got a lot of acknowledgement for, and I feel I've had a certain identity, and now I'm moving into something else that is completely stretching me and my competencies and what I know. Yeah. And I have to, in a way, I'm letting go of where I've been and what I've known. And I'm making a crossing into this whole different way of being, in the organization with myself, and being able to sit with somebody in that process is really powerful.
Yeah. I hear you on the identity, especially for executives who have been in an organization a long time. You're right, their identity and their sense of who they are, their self-worth is all tied up in the job. And it's really important for them to have a vessel, like we can just hold them in that space about just be completely honest. Tell me how you're feeling. I understand this transition to a new role, or taking off that identity cloak and putting on something new. That's going to be tough. And we're here to support you through that. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, it can happen going from one organization to another, or one very different role, right? Or in an organization. I mean, what about those leaders who have been in a peer group and now they're elevated?
And supervising the people that they used to be peers. Yeah, that's tough.
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden now I am moving into a different role. And how do I step into that? How do I invite others to be on that journey with me? How do I start to contract or renegotiate my relationships with these people? What are we designing and building together as we move forward? You know, now it's not only I'm in this group and I'm holding and supporting a vision for somebody else, but now I'm the one that's creating or co-creating the vision with my team. Maybe I've never done that before. And so I think coaching really helps with, you know, the sounding board of what's this look like? You know, how can I imagine this being, and having somebody along the way in those conversations.
We've all heard that phrase, it's lonely at the top. And for a lot of our clients, our executive level clients, that's their experience. You know, it's people that, to your point about the peers, people they used to be able to go to and have some level of candor. Now, for whatever reason, they might feel like they can't do that. And we are there for them to be completely candid with, because we come as a coach, no sense of judgment, just really more about you being honest with yourself about, being lonely is tough. It's really tough. So how can you develop new relationships or trusted relationships, perhaps with other executives at other companies or other individuals within the organization?
Yeah. There's all sorts of different scenarios, aren't there? I mean, there's that, there's the, I think about a leader that we were just talking before about people shifting in their roles, where they're really being called to lead in a different way, right? Like there was a leader I'm thinking about who loved doing the work, you know, and all of a sudden realized in this new role that that's not what was being called for. And their leader was just saying like, wow, you've got to drop this. And that stark reality of, oh no, you know, now I need to shift. And it can be really easy to think sometimes that I'm the only person that knows how to do this, and I know how to do it right. And so also there's the coaching around how do we start to develop the people that are working with us or for us incrementally over time. How do we start to like kind of build a sense of trust and trustworthiness in how we lead? It's so easy sometimes for leaders to feel like, oh, well, if I do it, it'll just happen a lot faster. But have that blind spot of, oh man, I'm sending messages of, I don't trust you. You're incompetent, you know, potentially.
Yeah, you're actually doing a disservice. Yeah. There's
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Well, I was just thinking about, I mean, we sort of seems like we're a little bit on this thread of succession, right? Also with leaders, how do you build your bench? How do you are you paying attention to how your work, especially, you know, now is shifting and changing pretty rapidly? Like when we think about what strategic planning looked like maybe even 4 years ago, it's really different than today.
Exactly.
You know, people might have been looking 3 or 5 years out. Now maybe we're looking 6 months or a year. But is my team agile enough? Like, can they move and shift? And do they have the skills to be able to do that?
Yeah, I would think, if anything, the experience of going through a pandemic taught us in business or helping leaders about the value of pivoting. That was a requirement. And about the value of looking at work in a different way, the value of what's most important. We were in a health crisis, so the health of the employees was the most important. And as a leader, that was the most important function at that time, at the height of the pandemic, I would say. And so how do you pivot accordingly? So it was a horrible experience. Of course, I'm not in any way diminishing that, but there were some silver linings that in terms of what people learned going through something like that. So, yeah.
There's also the leaders that might, and again, when I say leader, I'm referring really to, there's the executive coaching. I kind of consider myself an executive coach and a leadership coach. And I like to think of kind of, from some of my teachings, the idea of a leader is that anybody who's leading their own life, and so we could be looking at leaders at all different levels here in a certain way. But to really pause and just do some reflection too, like, wow, how like taking stock, really celebrating how I've moved through my career or what the trajectory is. What am I really proud of? I mean, just a way to just take a moment and then, am I satisfied with this? Is what do I want? Where do I want to go now versus just kind of moving through without much reflection or looking and getting to a point and wondering, oh man, how did I just spend this past 10 years or 5 years or 2 years even, am I even awake,
that's interesting. One of my pieces of work I do with executive clients is around values. So taking the time about what are your core values. And my experience has shown me that not very many people take stock, like you said, and sort of sit down and say, what's really important to me? And it's important if you're going to look for a new job that there is some alignment between who you are and where you're going. So that's one of the reasons for doing that exercise. But it's also useful just as a way of showing up, right, in the world, to be able to think about that.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to that presence piece. If I am espousing a certain thing, am I aligning in all ways with that? Language, action, mood, all of those things.
Exactly.
Am I building trust, or am I starting to erode trust in the people around me? But back to the values piece, I think that's important work with pretty high frequency. And not only the values, not like, let's just take a couple hours and do this, but let's sit with this for a while. And what are my guiding principles behind each of those values? And is that still true for me?
Yeah, it could shift around.
Yeah.
And when people get stumped, they don't know where to begin. I would say, well, what do you want it to look like in your children? What do you value? What do you hope you're teaching your children? And if you think about an executive as a leader at an organization and how they show up, they're teaching others in the organization about how to show up. That's
I'm looking at an image right now on my desk of a very calm seas, and there's a ship or a boat, going out into the waters, and there's a big wake.
Oh.
And I often think that are we paying attention to that wake? Often we remember that we're in the wake of somebody else, but there's a forgetfulness of that there's a wake behind us too.
I think Susan Scott in that book, she writes about communication, be aware of your emotional wake. Like what happens after you leave the room with the people who are left there, leaders need to be aware of that.
That we can really help with too is helping to shine some light on some patterns. What are our go-to ways of being or behaviors repeatedly And if we start to notice, can I start to get more range? Do I have more choice in here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I'm the person that's the yes person all the time, or
Yeah.
I'm really out
Yeah.
in front of myself. Wow, how do I learn to just to sit back and get more curious?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, do I have, you know, am I sort of constricting what's possible for me? Am I using too much energy in my day?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do I feel depleted at the end of the day? You know, and so looking at how am I, the whole sort of energy management piece, you know, how am I overworking myself?
Yeah,
You know, there's
it's
so
good.
many people in burnout and all, you know, and it's like,
Yeah,
well, let's talk about this. Like, well, how is that happening?
it's good sometimes just to observe, just
Yeah,
to be quiet and watch what's going on around you.
yeah, yeah.
Any last minute thoughts?
You know, I just think that executive coaching and leadership coaching or any kind of coaching, I mean, it's so nice to remember that it's okay to have people support us. You know, it's okay. Like how
You
nice to
mean in
gift
the
ourselves.
organization or?
Well, I mean, well, eventually, but I'm just saying with a coach, you know, it's really a gift to give ourselves, to allow ourselves or give ourselves permission um, to have somebody ride along with us for a while, right?
Mm,
To hold the conversation with us. We don't need to do it alone.
mm-hmm,
You know, I feel like we're
mm-hmm.
in such a like quick fix, do it alone culture. And it really is a gift. I find for myself, I'm getting coaching right now and been in coaching supervision. And it's just like I can relax, you know, I don't need to
Mm,
hold all of this by
mm,
myself.
mm-hmm. And that takes confidence, right? And courage to be able
Yeah.
to do that. So
Yeah.
good. Well, any last minute thoughts on your last minute? Any closure thoughts or anything you'd like to make sure that we, if I didn't ask the question, that we cover?
Not that good. Um, yeah, I mean, I think if not anything else, I think one thing that's really great to remember as you're stepping into coaching, or if you want coaching, um, that you can have exploratory conversations, you know,
Mm-hmm,
and see if something feels like a right fit for you.
mm-hmm,
And this is a time for people who want coaching. I mean, to get what you want.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's a lot of us out here in the world, and I think it's so that's something to remember too, right? The agency one has in that relationship.
Yeah, people talk about their calling, and I don't know if you feel like coaching is your calling, but it feels like that's where I'm meant to be. And my joy in working with clients is um, makes every day new. I mean, I just love my clients and uh, have so much empathy for what they're going through, and also a lot of what we've gone through as individuals. But
Mhm.
what did you say? You bring a spirit of curiosity, right, to
Yeah,
that relationship, our relationship with our clients and the client's relationship with us. But definitely one of support for sure.
yeah.
So,
It is that holy curiosity and that deep, deep, deep um, settling into as a coach that the client, the wisdom lives within the client.
yes,
And
yes,
all they really need is a place to hear themselves.
exactly. Yeah.
And so it's really how do we illuminate, you know, that or create space for someone to find their own voice and to be able to step into their own longing or yearning. And I think that's really part of the magic of coaching is just being a place where people can have that kind of listening.
Yeah, and I know you subscribe to this too, we believe, uh, or I believe pretty firmly that the client has the answers. It's just, we're just going to be able to, or our responsibility is to ask the right questions
Mm,
because we feel pretty confident the answers are in there. So that's what I mean about the curiosity, the joy of
yeah,
discovery.
yeah,
So
love it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. And anybody that is interested in pursuing a coaching experience with either myself or Jennifer, please feel free to visit fromwithincoaching.com. And you can set up exploratory sessions with either of us, which we would welcome. And it is an opportunity to kind of see. I mean, I sometimes call it speed dating, although I've never done speed dating in my life, but it's a way for you to check us out as coaches and for us to ensure that we could help you with what you're going on in your needs, either as a leader or as an executive. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for your time today.
Thank you, Lou. It's
Okay.
really fun to spend time with you.
Okay, take care.
Take care.